The leader of Lesotho's political party, Revolution for Prosperity, Sam Matekane, has successfully found two coalition partners with which to form a government. After winning the recent elections, the new party fell just 5 seats short of governing alone.
The road to the top seat of government is now clear. Political horse trading done and dusted. Now the businessman Sam Matekane and his coalition partners are ready to go public.
As some of those priorities have been mentioned, we will go and see others, and then we can be able to come and announce to everyone what we would have done in the first 100 days. There was mention of the roads that are in terrible conditions. We will also look at that and fix whatever is wrong and make it usable for the public.
The two smaller parties, Alliance for Democrats and Movement for Economic Change, are ready to get their hands dirty even under trying economical conditions. Asked if they still insist on not using state cars nor government residences, indeed, I still maintain I have not flip-flopped. We are aware that government follows its own protocols, but we will peruse the law and seek counsel. But we maintain that things done right, we wish to use our family cars, our own residences, up until the matters of economy look stable. In due course, the National Assembly will reconvene for the swearing in of new parliamentarians who can now appoint the Prime Minister, who will then be inaugurated after being introduced to His Majesty the King. Rabelang Khatebe, SABC News, Masego, Lesotho.
Yeah, very historic times that are playing out in Lesotho at the moment. To talk to us a little bit more about these times, we're now joined by Tsikoane Peshoane, who's the Executive Director of human rights body Transformation Resource Centre. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. These are momentous times in terms of just political shifts and change in Lesotho. Please unmute.
Yeah, good evening, Peter, and thank you very much for having me. And good evening to the listeners as well and the viewers as well.
All right, so as I was saying, these are truly momentous, historic times in terms of political change and shifts in Lesotho's history.
Yes, indeed. Drastic and unprecedented changes that we have just observed with these last elections.
All right, let me begin by asking you to put on your hat as an election observer. How did you see the elections? Were they free, fair, and a true reflection of the will of the people?
Yes, I must say, Peter, that the elections, I don't want necessarily to commit by using the free and fair phrases, but safe to say the will of the people have not been compromised, and that is the position we have taken, and that is the position that has been declared by the local observers under the Lesotho Council of NGOs. So we are actually taking that position because we are also appreciating the challenges that were circumscribed in the process of election management, which involves quite a number of issues that we were concerned about, which we have already been indicated to the IEC, and also we have also been indicating them to other stakeholders that are involved in the process.
What are your reflections about the state of Lesotho's democracy? Some might say that it's seen quite a lot of maturing in recent years. It's a country that has seen its fair share of troubles over time, but it seems to be coming of age, if I can use that expression.
Not quite, Peter, because you remember that Lesotho has always been on top of the agenda at SADC summit because of the troubles that we have been experiencing in the past 5 to 6 years. And we believe that after this election, we are not going to see ourselves now appearing on the top of the agenda on SADC trouble state, member state. So yes, of course, you probably, and the world and the region as a whole, probably is impressed by the recent developments that we held a peaceful election process, and we have now observed a newly formed political party taking over, undermining other political parties that have been in the space. So it seems that we are in a way maturing, because the election management is not characterized by violence and other problems that seem to be a challenge in some other countries, as we know. So with us, it's a different case altogether. But Peter, you must also recall that when it comes to election management, our election process, Lesotho has never had a major problem as far as the election management is concerned. We used to have problems after elections, once the election results have been announced. So it is not necessarily a new experience that this time around we don't have crisis or violence during the elections. It has always been the case. It's just that after elections, that is when we begin to realize challenges which are election-related or maybe related to the dispute of the elections.
Do we have any idea of the profile of the voters that turned out? Did young people show up? Because there's always a question mark about young people and whether they participate or not. And yet their vote tends to be the one that shifts new ideas.
It looks like the young people in some areas came out to go and vote, but in some areas we still had a challenge that young people did not come out to come and vote. Generally, we seem to be having a problem with the voter turnout, and if you look at the previous elections, the voter turnout was 46.6%. And it's also hovering around as for 40%, even with these previous elections. So it says less than 50% of the registered voters have not voted. It's one of the critical challenges that we are facing as a country, because it actually has two explanations that we can give to it. One, we have established that the voters' roll is not really reliable, that it can really gives us a true picture in terms of whether registered voters are really the 40% that we have received or we are observing now, because there is also incidences where some of the deceased have not been removed from the voters' roll. So those cases are still there. We know them. So it means when we make our calculations, we make calculations on the basis on that unreliable figure. Secondly, the IC has been given a very short time to get itself ready and to make things underway for the elections to be held in a smooth and adequate conditions that are required for the free and fair elections. So these are challenges that we have with these elections. You recall that the commissioners hardly have 2 years in office after the IC spent almost 2 years without having the commissioners. And again, the IC has been experiencing the challenges of resources. and is one of the challenges that have actually been impeded the IC to come with more robust strategies in terms of mobilizing the people to come out and participate in the electoral process. So this is the kind of challenges that we've been having, and even this year, it's a challenge that has seemed to be one of the major problems that we are facing or we experienced with these previous elections.
So Parliament is going to look very different. Will that mean a difference in the way the country's run, do you think? We have a businessman at the helm. Might that bode well in terms of how the country is run if he applies business principles?
Yes, of course. We are now having a different political leadership at the helm of the government, as you have indicated. But the challenge is, you must understand, Peter, that it is now a different ball game altogether, because now we are talking about management of the public institutions. The public institutions that have their own laws, legal framework, and the procedures are almost different in terms of how decisions are even made. You know, for instance, for the government to make a decision on the physicals, it has to seek approval from the parliament. And without the parliament approval, it may not be easy. Beside the parliament approval, you also have the technocrats, which is the civil service. You need to rely on those civil service for some of the decisions to be done, on some of the things to be passed through. So you understand that it's a different ball game altogether, because it is not like you have the management of the corporate entity, which I believe that the new leadership that is coming in is much more experienced, and it has a milestone. It has a proof itself that as far as the corporate entities management are concerned, they seem to be doing well in the country. But with regard to the public institution management, it seems to be going to be one of the experience that we are waiting to see how they are going to manage that sphere of public space. So this is one of the things that we cannot really preempt what could be the fate or what could be the end, because we believe that they are aware of the challenges, and they are aware that this is a different sphere and different space of the management of public affairs.
Mr. Peshoane, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much indeed for joining us and giving us some insights about these historic times that Lesotho is going through. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Peter.
All right, that's Mr. Tsikoane Peshoane, who's the Executive Director, Human Rights Body Transformation Resource Centre, who says that what he can commit to about these elections that have just happened is that they do not go against the will of the people.